Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the City Chatter Podcast. I'm your host, John Bernstrom, Public Information Officer for the City of Grand Forks. We have a fun one, a holiday edition of the City Chatter. We're going to talk about holiday safety with members from the Grand Forks Fire Department. We'll go first. Battalion Chief, right? Brendan LaRoque.
Yes, sir.
Welcome. And then we also have Fire Marshal Rog. Is it Freitag or Freitag?
Freitag.
Freitag. Yep. I've been pronouncing your name wrong my entire career. I've worked here for 18 years. I'm sorry about
constantly.
that. Okay. Well, let's just, Brandon, start with you. Battalion Chief, just intro to you and how long you've been with the fire department.
I've been with the fire department. Tomorrow will be 17 years.
Oh, so we started around the same time.
My anniversary date, yep. Made Battalion Chief in July and been enjoying that. The way I got into fire was I went through school at UND, graduated with criminal justice degree, and still didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went to the fire tech, and Grand Forks was the first place that hired me.
And then, so you mentioned you're recently battalion chief.
Yes.
Just talk about that move up to a senior level position.
Sure. So
That's my way of saying you're old.
that's fine. I'm starting to learn.
Get into your rod. Hang on.
I still have denial in that category, but no. You start off as firefighter, you move to driver, then to captain of a station, and then battalion chief is in charge of that shift for that day.
Sure. Are you day or night shift? Am I having you on your sleep or?
It's a 24-hour shift. So I
sure.
got off Sunday morning, and now I'm on a 4-day break. So I'll go back Friday.
All right. Also joining us is Rod Freitag. Rod, okay, so no age jokes here.
It's too late.
Too late. You're a fire marshal.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit? So when the alarm goes off, you don't necessarily are a guy hopping in a truck, but you come after. Can you talk about your work a little bit?
Right. The old guys in the fire marshal's office, we're not the ones that are going to run out the door to put the fire out. That's the young person's job, right? But if we're available and on duty during the time of the fire, we will go and witness and watch and help out wherever we can behind the scenes. Sometimes it's nice to watch the fire progress because it helps us in our investigation, which is ultimately what we're going to show up to do, is to investigate the fire and try to find out what happened.
And then, your position, is that something like special schooling, or is that progression through the departments? And then you took a left where you could have taken a right or whatever to get to the marshal's position. How does that work?
Typically, it's a progression. You can go to school specifically for that, but it's harder to get that job than it is to progress through a fire department. And it's more beneficial to go through the ranks and having been on suppression and things like that.
Sure. That makes sense. Is your work more on the back end of a fire or front end of a fire, like prevention?
Right. We definitely deal in prevention. It's our job to try to keep the suppression side from doing their job. If we can keep things safer and help teach people what to do to stay safer, then the best way to fight a fire is not have to do it.
Yeah, those are the best. Those are the best fires. Yeah,
Yep.
Brandon, it's that time of year. I know our kitchen's busy at my house. You go to the grocery store this time of year, it's crazy. But just holiday season, do you, as a battalion chief, first responder, do your calls change this time of year?
Yeah, typically, and I mean nationwide as well. We see the most cooking-related fires during Thanksgiving. Christmas Day is second, and then Christmas Eve is third. So around the holiday, you'll see an uptick in cooking-related fires. We also have, now that it's snow and ice, we'll go to falls and things like that. So,
along those lines, Chief Lorenz has told me, he goes, fire department, just because you're not responding to fires doesn't mean you're not busy. Talk about, the least number of calls you maybe go is on fires, knock on wood.
Yes.
You'd go to everything else.
Fires are the big part, what we train and like to do. They are typically the lowest number in call volume.
Sure.
Maybe not, they're not the least important, but
Right. As far as call volume.
most of our calls are medical related, EMS. So we do run on roughly 70% are EMS related calls.
And then, so tell me how it works a little bit in Grand Forks. Every time somebody calls 911, everybody responds? Police, fire, ambulance, or is it? I know you guys are heading out the door a lot.
Yep. So in the past, that's used to be what it was.
Okay.
You would get all three three-tier response, but
Sure.
now they've tried to pare it down, so we're not sending everybody all at once every time, because obviously PD is very busy
Obviously.
all the time.
Yeah.
So
And is it? I realize you're not ambulance, but you guys work as EMS too, right?
Yep.
Because lots of times you can get there quicker than an ambulance.
Yep. So everybody's EMT basic certified. You know, if something happens, we can do basic care until Ultra gets there. We can help transport, things like that.
Talking about this holiday season, what are some good tips? You talk about lots of cooking related fires are response. If you were to talk to a class and say, all right, it's Thanksgiving and you're preparing Thanksgiving meal, here's some things to pay attention to, what would you say?
Biggest thing is stay in the moment. It's real easy to get distracted with holidays and family, lots of people around, and you're cooking and you can get distracted and walk away from what you're doing. That's the number one cause of cooking fires is, not being there.
Oh, sure.
So staying there, staying in the moment.
Leaving a stove on.
Leaving a stove on, walking away. If you're cooking, just be present. If you have to walk away for a minute, turn things off. Those kind of things. We've had fires where people will start something on the stove and then leave.
And
go
there's
to
a
the
lot
store
going on and you forget.
Yep. So that's the biggest thing. And if you do have a stovetop fire, people get panicked, and the first thing they want to do is grab that pan and run to the sink.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing you can do, because now you can burn yourself and you can spread the fire. The best thing you can do is have a cover available while you're cooking, and then if something happens, slide the cover on. Even if it's a pizza pan, to just cover your pan completely, put it on there, turn it off. It'll block the oxygen from getting to the fire. It'll put the fire out, and then give us a call. We'll come out, make sure.
Part of that with kitchen fires is last time you're dealing with grease.
Yes.
Grease is nasty stuff when it can cook amazing. Well, like we deep fried some onions this past weekend, and it's really good stuff, right?
Yep.
Scared to death doing it. We've deep fried a turkey before, tasted real good. Don't recommend doing that. But from a standpoint like that, just you talk about cover. That's what you should do with a grease fire, correct?
Yes, cover it so that the oxygen is limited and cut off from it. If it doesn't have oxygen, it can't burn.
And along those lines, if you put water on it,
It's
you are going to
violent.
spread it.
It is violent. It's a reaction that is violent, because once that water hits that hot oil, it boils and it expands 1,700 times.
Yeah.
And it's got to go somewhere. It's like an explosion.
When you guys respond, Brandon, when you guys respond to say it's a kitchen fire,
Yep.
right? Are you guys going in assuming it's grease?
No, not all the time. A lot of times we get called for, fire alarm with smoke showing, or there's a structure fire, and that's all we know until PSAP can get more information
Sure.
to update us. So,
Because I'm assuming from a firefighter standpoint, it'd be handy to know if it's grease or not, just from that nature, if you don't want to accidentally put something on it that causes that reaction.
correct to a point, but the amount of water we're putting on is different from a cup of water that you might get from
Sure.
the sink. So,
Okay.
fair enough.
That's fair.
And you're further away. You're further away with a hose, applying enough water to kind of
Proper
override
PPE.
that.
Yeah.
It's a little different ball game there, but it doesn't take long for that to go from a stovetop fire and crawl up the wall and hit the cabinets, and then you're burning your whole kitchen.
Oh yeah. It's kitchen fires can be real tough. Another question I have from you, and I'm going to go to you again here, Rod. So we're pretty good in my house. Maybe it's because I work for the city and I know a bunch of firefighters. How many plugins can you have in an outlet for a Christmas tree?
Well, Christmas Vacation would say that you can stack them up as much as you want.
Exactly.
Same with the Christmas Story. No, you really should stick to however many are in your outlet, right? You got a
Sure.
2-place or a 4-place. But, well, with that being said, though, a power strip, a UL listed proper power strip with a bunch of lights plugged into it is more than likely going to be okay, because the lights are fairly low draw, and especially if you stick with the LED lighting.
Sure.
In today's world, they're more durable, they draw less power, they don't heat up like incandescent bulbs will.
It's a lot different from even you mentioned the movie the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, where you got to check every bulb because it puts the whole string. That's just not the technology we have in Christmas lights anymore.
Things are different. They're not running series anymore. They're running parallel, so you can drop a bulb and still be okay. But it is important to use UL listed lighting. follow manufacturer's recommendations, those kind of things, just to make sure everything is safe. Inspect your cords and bulbs before you use them. Make sure the cords are in good shape. Make sure extension cords are decent as well. They can get breaks in the outer coating and things like that. So just check everything out.
Piggybacking extension cords.
Yeah, cord to cord is a thing we see, and
sure.
Don't do that. Yep.
Yeah.
Not just this time of the year, all the year.
Okay.
If you have to use,
I'm not guilty of that. I promise, maybe.
if you have to use more than one extension cord, buy a longer cord.
Sure.
That's what we want you to see.
Can those power strips, I call them surge protectors, right? So you plug a bunch of lights in, and then really that's supposed to flip before it causes an issue in your wall. Can those things wear out?
They most certainly can cause problems. Anytime you plug and unplug, you're putting wear on that. Actually, the tangs inside there, they wear and they get loose. And anytime you have a loose connection, you develop heat. And
sure.
You will see those. We have some samples even that we've kept before where they get hot enough to melt the thermoplastic around it, and you can see the darkening of it and the shape in plastic. So most certainly. So always keep an eye on that and make sure you're replacing them as needed. Yeah.
Quick question along those lines. When it comes to fighting, like a fire suppression and it's electrical and base, do you have to attack that differently?
Depends upon the source of the electricity. Smaller source, we're okay with using our typical pre-connect lines off of our engine. If it's a bigger load, we might not apply any water at all, say if it's a power line or a transformer, because then we're going to make the situation worse. If we know we're going into, say, someplace that has a data center, we might be more cognizant and use carbon dioxide.
Extinguisher. Because water and electricity never don't. They don't work well together.
No, they don't.
How often there aren't as many real trees out there anymore? They're out there. I get it. But not. It's not in our house.
My parents.
Your parents. Do you have to? A dried up Christmas tree is a nasty thing. Do you guys? Is that a call that happens every year?
I would say no. It's been quite a few years since we've gone on an actual
knock on wood,
right? Yeah, that we've got on that call. Usually, it's either electrical related or cooking related.
Okay, so but those trees can go up in a hurry.
They can. You want to make sure that you're watering them every day as needed, and just keep an eye on it.
If anyone, I think it was you sent me a video, Rod, of a Christmas tree, a dried out Christmas tree. And this was a simulation. It was lit on fire on how quickly it put the room completely in flames.
That tree is fully involved. It can be fully involved within 10 seconds. And then by 30 seconds, you're fully involved with the room. Right. You're rolling over across the ceiling, and it is just a fuel source that's ridiculous. A dried out pine tree is there's oils and things in there, and then surface area is a big thing, right? So you got a typical tree with leaves, they're bigger, but then you have those little needles and little branches, and
they can all catch
the sap and the oils. They go crazy. Now, if you water your tree, that time is significantly extended.
Yeah.
Another thing that's a good idea, if you can find them, I don't know if we have a lot that are sold in the area, but you can get fire retardant real trees.
Oh, really?
That are treated with a spray. Or you can buy a spray yourself and
spray your own. I've never heard of that.
Yep, you can do that for a real tree, and it definitely helps to break that chain reaction that is fire, to keep it from spreading and turning into an inferno.
I grew up on a farm in northern Minnesota, and we would always get real trees because you support the local business, so you go and support the nursery that's down the street, and they had real trees, and we'd always flock it. And I think that was just to keep the needles on the tree as long as we could. That was my understanding, because then you'd flock it and it looked real nice and looked like it was covered in snow. And then you take the tree up, you literally just bend it over, and boom,
everything just falls right off.
Everything just falls right off. Yep. I remember thinking about that. I'm like, oh, that's not protecting the house from anything short of a mess.
Sure.
Water it every single day. And the biggest thing is when you get it home, cut the bottom 2 inches off and then keep the water to it all the time.
Bottom to expose
You know, like when you
the
get your white flowers, you want to
you
trim them
trim it,
up
yeah.
so it draws up.
Same thing.
Yep.
Same thing. I suppose that tree's probably healed a little bit in the
Yep.
process of being in a yard somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So, fire safety, we talked about this during the holidays, cooking and all that stuff. You talked about it when you're on shift. You're on, on for 3, off for 4, or on for 4, off for 4? How do the shifts work?
So it goes, we would go back, we're on a 4-day break. We'll go back Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, 4-day break. And
Okay.
It just kind of shifts like that. We have 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. So we're on duty come holidays.
Yeah.
Typically, we do our morning checks and our morning chores, get that done. Usually there's a holiday meal with that station. They'll have, they bring in whatever they want to decide to make that day. Maybe they're sick of turkey and they want a seafood meal.
Sure.
They go out and buy their own food and make their food. And sometimes they'll have, family members in. So
you would do that.
Yep.
So-
That's available to the people if they want, as long as it's okay with the battalion chief and the chief.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have and if you get to Station 1, it's more of there's more people there. So it's more of a family picnic kind of style.
Sure, because that's where all the admin offices are and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, but they don't work on holidays.
You guys get the time off there. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Us regular people. On a given shift, is there a designated cook?
No.
You guys,
Some people are better than others, but
Okay.
usually it's a team effort.
okay.
And then if you don't cook, you clean.
Okay, so that's where my wife gets it from?
Maybe. Did she work at the fire department?
No, but that's a rule in our house
Yeah,
between my wife and my kids. If you help with cooking, you don't have to clean.
Yep. So we have that same rule amongst other rules in the kitchen, but
We
that's
have guys
a big
that
one.
despised cooking, and they would not do it as long as they were cleaning. They just made sure they did the dishes.
Sure. So along those lines, you're in the middle of, it's one thing preparing a meal and stuff like that regularly. A holiday meal is generally more,
Extravagant.
you want to make it a little more special. Call comes in, shut off every stove,
Everything
and
gets
run out
turned
the
off.
door.
Yep. Sometimes you might just sit down and plate your food, and then you get to go and come back half an hour later and warm up your food. Or maybe you're making, I don't know what it is you're making, but it sat in boiled water too long and you got to start over.
Sure. And then same thing when it comes to just as this isn't just a holiday thing, but for a shift thing and everything. Are the stations pre-stocked, or from a food standpoint, or is every shift go and buy their own food for that shift?
Every shift will go, unless the wheels fall off, the food gets bought from that crew, whoever's on that crew that
Whoever's
day.
on the-
Somebody goes on their off day to buy the food at the store.
Oh, okay.
Then brings it in.
Brings it in because I've seen fire trucks and
Oh, yeah.
crews.
Yep, we do.
In the grocery store. I've seen them then go to their ear, leave their cart, and walk away.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because, just like any other place, you have sick leave, vacation, things like that. So we might have a game plan of how
A day's gonna go.
that day's going to go. Few people calling sick, and the crews get moved around and shifted. So kind of the meal plans sometimes fall apart.
And then, Rod, from your standpoint, in years of working at the station, have you had left a grocery cart in the middle of the store? All
Many
that fun
times.
stuff?
It used to be common practice to get there in the morning. You would have your quick little meeting with your shift and decide what was being cooked for the day, what we were having. And then the newest guy in the shift would get sent to the store. He'd go to the store and buy everything and come back. It's shifted a little bit now more toward what Brandon was saying, that they do it on their day off to kind of free up that time,
Yeah.
when they're on duty. But there's been many times where we're in there with a cart full of food and the call comes in and you got to go. And the grocery stores, at least back in those days, knew it, and they would take it and wheel it to a cooler and just know we were
they'd
coming
set
back.
it aside.
We
Yeah.
were
Oh.
coming
They
back
knew
for it.
better.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
I've left a cart 3 times back in the day.
And-
The same cart. Go back, try to finish shopping, have to leave again.
Have to leave again? You couldn't get through it?
For the most part, it was always a good relationship with the public as well, because a lot of times the public is driving by and they just see these brick buildings. They don't see the people that often anyway, right? And when you do see them, maybe they're there for a bad reason. So it was always nice to get out there and interact with the public a little bit and talk with them. And for the most part, people were very receptive to that and enjoyed it. It was good experiences.
I've personally run into again, I've worked with the city for 18 years. You get to know firefighters and different personnel, and you run into the grocery store, and I stop and chit chat, and they're just like, "Hey, this is nice. I only have a few minutes here.
Gotta go.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
there's 3 more guys waiting in the truck."
Yep, that happens.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so we've talked about going on calls. We talked about this time of year. There's certain number of calls or types of calls you go on tied to holidays. That's generally also associated with snow, ice, right? I can just imagine the amount of falls, if you will, you guys have had to respond to in the past
Yep,
week or
falls,
so.
car accidents are on an uptick.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the PD's kind of run board, they get busy when the first snow comes or if there's an icy condition. So
It's amazing. I've lived in the northern climate my entire life. That first snow catches every time.
Yep.
Every time. I've got a new driver in my house this year.
Oh boy.
Boy.
It has license for about 3 weeks now.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and we're learning some lessons. We haven't run into anything yet, but if you want to evasive driving, go to a high school.
Yeah.
it's an interesting endeavor.
There's going to be an accident.
Oh,
At
yeah.
some point,
I'll
there's
be there in a few years. So
Yeah. It happens. It happens. So we talk about these types of calls. Now I'm going to put you guys on the spot, and I'm going to go to you first.
Sure.
What is the weirdest call you've been on?
Sure. So then you have your typical cat in a tree, right?
Which you've done.
Done that a few times.
Yep.
The weirdest one, I guess, would be a dog on a roof.
Dog on a roof.
Had to get the dog. It was like a story and a half, older house. I think they had a window AC unit, and somehow the dog was able to jump on top of the AC unit and climb out on the roof. And then they didn't know how to get it up back inside. So
Because if I were on that call, first thing I'd be like, all right, yeah, we'll get the dog. Can we figure out how it got up there?
well, I didn't believe it when it came in as dog on a roof. I'm like, dog on a roof? How? Like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? But
That sounds like a college prank.
kind of.
Yeah, a little bit. All right, Rod, how many cats have you saved?
Well, and this is funny because that's exactly what I'm going to, and he just alluded to it, but it does happen, and people ask you all the time, do you really save cats in trees? And I'd have to say that my weirdest call was a cat in a tree, and the funny part is that one wouldn't have come down because it was attached to a leash, and the leash was stuck in the tree.
Oh, really?
So a lot of
You literally saved a cat?
yeah, people
Okay.
always say, well, why don't you just give it time and it'll come down? And that's true. I went on one once where it was on top of a pole out in an alley. And by the time we got near it with a ladder, it jumped down and took off.
Yeah.
But this one wouldn't have done that. We had to set the aerial up and next to a house in a tight quarters and get this thing out of the tree. And we had to untangle the leash and bring the leash back down as well. So that one wouldn't have gotten out by itself.
And you know what? Of all the calls you guys go on, right? And you're dealing with fires or car accidents or somebody falling, right? So even at the point where your job is done and you leave, their day is still kind of bad,
Yep.
right? I can imagine saving a cat from a tree. You're like, oh, you made their day good.
Along the lines of cat in the tree, Rod, we do a lot of ducks in storm
am
drains.
blown away.
Oh,
People will call that in. I don't know how they're seeing ducklings. The mom will walk across in the curb, and then all the ducklings
are
fall
they
in
falling in? Oh, they're
Yep.
falling in the grates.
I
because
can't
they're
believe
living
how many
somewhere
times
nearby.
that happens. I am amazed at how many
I
times
would
that
say at
happens.
least 4 times during the hatching season.
Really?
We'll get called out, and we have to pull the cover off and get somebody down there to pull the ducklings out.
And pull the ducklings out. Is Mama Duck, is one person in charge of making sure Mama Duck doesn't go crazy?
Typically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
'Cause,
Got to run blocker.
pretty much along those lines. Is they're still protective.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys coming in. We're working around this and trying to work in more, staff, if you will, and
Sure.
talking about city functions. I mean, you guys literally are, right where the rubber meets the road when it comes to city government, if you will, right?
Yes, sir.
You guys get that 911 call, and you guys are out. And so hopefully this Thanksgiving you guys are able to eat.
Yep.
Hopefully this Thanksgiving you don't have too many calls, kitchen calls. Knock
But
on wood.
now you're just jinxing everybody. So
Right. Well, but if I say it out loud, then you don't have to hope, right? You just
we just know it's going to happen.
it's just what's going to happen, right? And I was going to ask you this: there are 5 fire stations in the city of Grand Forks.
Correct.
Is any one of them busier than the other?
Station 1 on Demers and Washington, kind of the downtown area.
Yep.
That's our busiest one, and then it's followed by Station 3. And
Just down on Columbia,
yeah,
south
by
of Walmart.
Dairy Queen.
Yep,
Call
Dairy
it the
Queen down
Dairy
there.
Queen
Yep,
station.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
then
That's convenient.
you have University up by the Ralph.
Station 2.
Station 2.
Is it all the same? So, like the downtown one, I'm assuming is just because of the proximity of population downtown. That station gets those calls.
Yep. Downtown, you have older buildings, more population,
Sure.
things like that.
Nightclubs.
Yep. Yeah. The evening calls. What makes Station 3 busy? That's the one down there by Dairy Queen.
Station 3 you have a lot of residential with the commercial, and then you have some nursing homes in the area too.
Sure.
So
Okay. And then Station 2 is just UND.
typically, it's from the UND calls.
Yep.
We'll see an uptick when the kids come back to school, uptick in calls, and then when they leave, you get a little summer break as well.
So I just remember from my college days, there was always never did it.
Walsh Hall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Weird.
me
Yeah.
too.
Weird.
Yeah. Fire alarms.
All the time, middle of the night. Well, the problem with that is everybody got complacent, and that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah,
Fire
but-
alarms go when the fire is actually happening, and you're not leaving. Now we have an issue. So
Yeah, I mentioned that they tore down Walsh Hall because those walls started talking.
oh yeah,
You know, it came to a pretty quick halt when we had them install screecher boxes. So you had to open the box to pull the pull station, and then they screech.
Oh, they
really
screech when
loudly.
you- so-
they're annoying. And
So you didn't. If it was an actual fire, you don't care about the screech.
No.
Right.
Yep.
But if
So
it's the
that
prank
helped.
from the adjacent dorm
at 3 in the morning, and then 4 in the morning,
Yeah.
and then 5 in the morning.
because somebody broke up with somebody,
Right.
or somebody went home with somebody else. Not saying that was the issue, but that generally was the connection.
Sure.
Can we do a quick plug for home safety inspection?
Yeah, go for it. What do you got?
If anybody's interested in having their home inspected, kind of a safety audit from the fire department, they can contact the admin office and they'd be happy to schedule that. They'll come out and tell you if there's some safety issues or smoke detector, smoke alarm issues, those kind of things. Just contact the office and they can set those up for you.
I will say this as a parent with kids in school, you guys as a department do a good job of getting to those kids in school. Our kids have drawn escape maps for our house, meeting place outside of our house where to go.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Contact info for neighbors.
Yep.
How to get out of windows in their rooms if they like how to take the screen out.
Fantastic.
All through the school, all through. I'm assuming it's through Fire Safety Week and stuff like that.
Yep,
That happens
yep.
in October.
Currently working with the state to try to get that on a state level, so it's statewide through the schools, and then hit middle school again as well. So that's what we're working on.
Yep. Interesting with the one that I think it was middle school or maybe it was 5th grade. Part of that project was like it wasn't a drafting class, but they had the graph paper
Yep.
and draw the sketch of your home, and they
Yep.
had to have a one square was 1 foot or one square
Sure.
was 10 feet or something like that. That was the premise of the lesson.
I just did that with my 2 youngest daughters, so
Yeah.
had to draw out the house, and I made them go find out where the detectors were and how to get 2 ways out of every room.
So along those lines, if you're a parent, you have kids in school, you naturally do that. It's as a parent, the kids get out of school, and that's just not going to logically
Sure.
chime in, right?
I get
I know
it.
where my smoke detectors are, and I know when they chirp at me, like you can't replace batteries in some of those anymore.
No, you
it's a
cannot.
replace the detector.
Yep.
Little frustrating.
Well, knowing what to do is kind of the key, and the more you practice it and think about it, the better off you are during emergency, because people freak out, and we try to.
Oh, yeah.
If you learn a little bit, you're less likely to freak out.
Yeah, and everyone reacts differently in a situation, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone's different at that one. Well, all right, guys, I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank
for
you
being
very
here.
much. Thanks for having us.
You guys have a happy Thanksgiving.
You
Okay?
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy that turkey. And so for Brandon Rod, let me get my right ones down. Thank you for joining us from the Grand Forks Fire Department. And everyone have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching this episode of the City Chatter Podcast. If you want to see this episode or any previous episodes, go to grandforksgov.com/podcast. We'll catch you next time.